months. I never thought I could spiral to such a low point. I am typically a clean, organized person. Before today I hadn't even bothered to tally up the time. The only reason I was able to get an accurate date was because I showered back in December when I went out for my birthday. The days just melt together. Today I was in my pantry and kept smelling something bad. Every time I'd turn my head it hit me again. I realized it had to be me. That's just what happens when you don't shower. I never really noticed it before. My bed had a noticeably dark spot where I would always sleep. It hadn't been washed either. I reflected on how I could have allowed myself to descend to such a poor standard of personal care. The realization was very scary to me. I tossed every blanket, comforter, and pillowcase into the washer today. I also took an hour-and-a-half long shower this afternoon. My skin feels incredibly soft and I smell distinctly of soap. The feeling of touching my bare legs to fresh sheets was extremely pleasant. Doing a few loads of laundry and taking a long shower essentially drained me of all my energy. I took a long nap after getting it done. It's not lost on me that showering and doing laundry shouldn't be something that exhausts me. Even writing this now is draining. No matter how much I sleep, the fatigue never goes away. Untreated depression can completely change you. I've gained a lot of weight, my work performance is trash, I don't go out, and until very recently I didn't even take care of myself enough to shower. It disgusts me. I'm so angry at myself for the way I've gone. It's important to me that I take my fair share of the responsibility for how the last year or so has panned out. I made these poor choices, I neglected myself. I allowed myself to spiral. That being said, the lack of accessibility and affordability for mental health care in the US is shameful. I can't get professional help if I tried. I don't have $90 to $120 for a 60-minute session. It's not my intention to politicize this post, but something has to change. How many people like me are hurting and can't climb out of this ever-deepening hole because they can't get the help they need? Another important thing I need to vent about is the way people act around people with genuinely severe mental health issues. They're there for you, they love you, they support you. Until you actually display noticeable symptoms. You're angry, distant, uninterested, and pessimistic. That's the severe depression package deal. The moment these symptoms kick up, you're deemed toxic and they disappear from your life as quickly as they made the promise to you to stick by your side. You're now left with no one to talk to, with the added injury of being abandoned by people you thought were your friends. I had no reason to care anymore. Taking a shower in no way cured me or whipped me back into shape. I'm still the same person, except now I smell like Irish Spring. I'm setting a goal to shower once per week and wash my sheets twice a month. I'm introducing myself to things I know I used to enjoy, like art and music. I'm taking a break from current news because that just upsets me more. I have no one to talk to about these things, so this is kind of a public journal entry. I hope one day I can get myself to a state of enjoying life. I don't know why I'm posting this. It's all I can think about. I had a stillbirth on July 1st. That's my partner's birthday. I was pregnant for 5 months. That's more than half a pregnancy. I went to the doctor for the whole gender reveal. So exciting. Have a 1-year-old boy, and all I wanted for him was to have a little brother. He had one. A little boy was on the way. After we found out the gender, my doctor invited us into his office, which I thought, we were close, but I was like, okay, he must really like us. That's when he told us, "Your son has a heart defect." I didn't know how to feel. Is it fixable? Can we fix this? It's not a big deal, right? Yeah, it's a big deal. I went to all the specialists for fetal cardiology. It just got worse and worse. Every day in between visits I cried and worried and cried and worried. Every day felt like a nightmare. After a few appointments they told me his esophagus wasn't forming right. Then his stomach wasn't formed right. Basically it would be years of surgeries and he'll have a small chance to survive. I kept imagining my 1-year-old in a casket. We can't afford those surgeries. I'm struggling just to get my license back. He's working. I can't imagine how we could keep this child alive. My body was the only thing keeping him alive. My partner doesn't believe in abortion. I do. But it's so different when you can feel them moving inside of you. Like, I already have this connection. I felt him and we named him. And I saw him. Every single doctor's appointment I had there was an ultrasound and they kept giving me pictures. So many pictures. I finally made the decision to have him terminated. It breaks my heart. They stuck a giant needle in my belly and it hurt. I couldn't look at the ultrasound while they did it. And then that was it. All our problems and woes were done. And I had that baby who was named dead inside of me. I had to deliver him like you would do with a live baby. Spend days in the hospital, like I did a year ago with my other son, but this time I had no one to bring home with me. I felt everything. No epidural, nothing. I didn't have the heart or strength to look at him after he was delivered. I couldn't do it. They left my dead baby in the room with me for hours and I couldn't look at him. I felt so ashamed. We couldn't have kept him alive. We couldn't afford the surgeries. I have another son to think about, and when that boy was still inside of me I wasn't mentally available for my other son. I need to be there for him. I finally looked at him at the funeral home. I felt so guilty that it was my decision to kill him. None of my family know. They think it was a stillbirth. I wake up at 3 a.m. every morning and it's all I can think about. I put my hands on my father once. My father used to beat the shit out of us. It was physical abuse and not a spanking here or there. To put it in perspective, I thought all kids got beaten up by their parents. When I started middle school and took off my shirt, I had bruises and cuts all over. I remember looking at the other boys without their shirts and not one had so much as a scratch. He stopped when I became a teen and I became estranged from him. My sister had a kid and got hooked on drugs. My nephew went to live with my dad. My dad seemed to have mellowed out after all these years, so I reconnected with him and my nephew. My nephew was 8 and I was trying to take off his shirt to go shower and he refused. I thought he was shy. No, he had bruises on his back from my dad and was trying to hide it. It triggered something in me. When I went to drop off my nephew back at his house, I told my dad I needed to talk to him privately. I grabbed him and told him to keep his hands off my nephew or I'll beat the shit out of him. It shocked my dad because I am such a quite mellow person. I could take him in a fight. All he said was that he didn't know how to discipline him, and, yes, my nephew is no angel. I told him to take his shit away and get him out of the house and into sports and classes. That was a few years ago and my dad has never laid a finger on my nephew since. I am not looking for pats on the back. I just never told anyone this and people would be shocked. I have been getting paid to have an affair with my neighbor. I am 22 and male. I have an affair with my neighbor, 35F. She is married and I am single. My work went online once quarantine hit and she is a housewife with no kids. One afternoon I caught a glance of her naked as she was standing next to the window. She caught me looking at her and gave the come hither motion with her finger. So I went over there and we had sex. Now normally I would never do this, but quarantine has shook my social life. I am also submissive and it is hard to be comfortable sexually, and I find much more comfort when the woman takes charge like my neighbor did. She noticed quickly that I am a sub and it works out well because she is a switch and hasn't been able to dom in 10 years, and the last time her husband fucked her was Valentine's Day. We have been having sex every weekday for 1 to 3 hours since March. We are so close and the amount of trust between us is the most I have ever had with someone. During the weekend she will send me the most amazing messages about how she longs for me and how she can only express her real self around me. And the cherry on top is that she pays me to have sex with her. She likes the idea of me being her whore, plus it is her husband's money. I really don't need it, but she says to take it regardless. Straight, married, and wearing Victoria's Secret or pink thongs every day. I am a man who has been married for over 20 years. I've been wearing women's panties off and on for longer than that. About 5 years ago I started wearing panties almost every day and have tried many brands and styles. A year ago I walked into a Victoria's Secret and walked out with about 10 pairs of panties, boy shorts, and a few thongs. It took me a few months, but I finally found the right styles and sizes for me, and now I only wear Versus and pink thongs. They are softer and hold everything in place better than any men's underwear. August 24, 2019, the day I killed my son before cancer did. This is the day I realized I'm part of a bigger problem. This is the day of every year I will be reminded I'm an asshole. It all started about 1.5 years ago. Me, my wife, my son and a family friend went out to dine at a restaurant. Lots of wine. Fun, laughter, conversation. 5th glass of wine, and a new subject is introduced to the conversation. The financial support for my son, 18 years old at the time, who was going to study at college. So what about your son's money? Family friend asks. I will support him till he gets his degree. Unless I find out he's gay or something. Lol. High from alcohol say. Why should you put limitations on your son's private life? It has nothing to do with you, she goes. If he's getting my money, he's got to comply with my beliefs. I don't want my son to be a part of a group of people I hate, I say. No need to worry, Dad, I'm not gay, my son said. I could see he was hiding something behind his smile. I could see his eyes were trying to tell something. Semi-drunken me decided to ignore that. Days go by, I see him all the time in the house, playing games, staying in bed most of the time. What's wrong? Don't you want to hang out with your friends? I don't feel like going out today. He used to be very social. He was still, but not as close to the frequency he used to go out like before the dinner night. He didn't go to sleep. Or rather, he did, but at absurd times. One night I woke up to go in the bathroom. I heard nose sniffing from his room. The door was half open. In the dim light I could see him folded on his bed, crying silently. I didn't know why. I thought he had a girlfriend who broke up with him or something. I was never close to my son more than a father. I wasn't able to understand exactly what was wrong. August 17, 2019. My son frequently complained of dizziness and nausea all the time. We went to several doctors. That day was the day we got the results. Brain cancer. It was curable. I told him not to panic. I told him I loved him and I would do anything possible to have him cured. He was surprisingly calm. It's okay, Dad, you don't have to. We don't have money, we'll all die anyway. It's just that I know I'll die sooner than most people. It's okay. What the hell are you talking about? No, you'll die as soon as most other people, I replied. We couldn't do anything at the time, but I promised I would work hard. I asked relatives for help and they gladly offered to help with his cure. I worked overtime that week. 7 days later. I'm at work, I forgot something and went back at home to get it and then returned to work. Get in the house, dead silence. I walk in the corridor. His room door locked shut. What's the point to lock the door if no one's home? I knocked several times, no response whatsoever. Complete silence. I had a gut feeling telling me something was wrong. I kept knocking and yelling at him. I called my wife at work if she knew anything about him. She had no clue. I hit the door with my body to break it open. Several attempts and I managed to open the locked door. My heart stopped beating. Here is my son, at the center of his room, his feet not touching the ground. He hanged himself with an extension cord, from the ceiling light. I was shivering, scared and devastated. I didn't know what to do first. I honestly had no courage to face the situation. Should I get my son down? If he hanged less than half an hour ago he could be alive. I took a deep breath. I got my son, laid him on the bed. I was crying. I was red, my face was wet with tears, but I made no sound and I could barely see for the tears were blocking my eyesight. I was shivering but I managed to call an ambulance. I wasn't sure if I should tell my wife. I arrived at the hospital. There, I decided to call her. She came there lighting fast screaming, "Where's my baby? Where is he? What happened?" She was crying. I hugged her to calm her down. The nurse comes to us, announces that our son is dead. Back at home. Look at his desk. A suicide note was there. "Dear Mr. and M's, my and my wife's surname, I'm gay. It's something I didn't choose to be, it's something I was born with, it's something I never understood why I should be judged by. Some people become actors because they want to. I became an actor because I had to. Let me hear my props, you don't get to see such realistic smiles from other actors. People like you because they haven't heard a word from you that they don't want to hear. Do it. Say I'm gay. Bam. There goes the good reputation you had. Same person, but you said a word people didn't expect to hear from you." The rest of the note was other life struggles, with cancer being the last straw that drove him to suicide. "This was the day I realized that everything you say has an impact on other people, without you even knowing it. I killed my son. I did it. I killed my son without knowing it. I killed my son because I'm a stubborn piece of shit. My son died because he couldn't get acceptance of who he really was from his own family. I deserve insomnia. I deserve crying. I deserve drinking myself to sleep and my wife knows it. I let my friend freeze in a park bench when I was 13. I never, ever, talked about this, but I just can't take it anymore. I was 13 years old and was going through this unruly teen phase, you know? Me and two of my friends decided to get some alcohol and get wasted after school. It's pretty easy to get booze as an underage person where I come from. So, when we left class, we went straight to the market and bought 2 bottles of a really strong drink called askreddit. We went to a park and at about 5 p.m. we started drinking. We had that rush of doing something illegal, and after an hour or two, we all were already really drunk. About 8 p.m., one of my friends passed out. He was the one who drank the most. It was his first experience with alcohol, and when he got unconscious, me and my other friends started to get worried. We put him laying down on a bench, Tried to give him water and did everything we could to wake him up, but he kept sleeping. A couple of hours passed, and it was getting pretty late, so I made the worst decision of my life. I suggested to leave him there overnight, so his mom wouldn't find out we got alcohol. I unlocked his phone and texted her, "Mom, I'm sleeping at S today." Then we made him as comfortable as possible, and left. I thought he would just wake up in the middle of the night and go home. I was so scared of my mom finding out. The next day, he didn't answer any of my texts and didn't show up to school. A teacher close to his mother walked in our classroom and said he was in the hospital, in an extremely serious situation. He experienced alcohol poisoning and hypothermia. His brain was damaged by his super low body temperature. He stayed about 12 hours in the hospital before he died. No one ever found out me and my friend were there with him that day, and we swore to take that to our graves. I told my mom I didn't want to go to his funeral because I couldn't take it, but it was actually because of the guilt. I never saw his mother again, and the people at my school don't talk about this anymore. Sometimes I wonder what life would he have had, if I didn't leave him to freeze to death on that bench.